He walked up within probably 8 inches of my face, 10 inches, and he said, "You got to go back to Memphis. You got to meet with Vernon. Elvis is dead."
Could the man who built the king of rock and roll have also been the one who led to his downfall? This question lingers over the legacy of Colonel Tom Parker, the enigmatic and controversial manager of Elvis Presley. His influence shaped every aspect of Elvis's career, but was his guidance a path to success or a road to ruin? Before we dive into this fascinating story, make sure to subscribe for more in-depth celebrity insights and music history revelations. Elvis Presley was more than just a musician. He was a cultural phenomenon, an icon whose presence dominated music, film, and the entertainment industry for decades. But behind every great star, there is often a figure pulling the strings, making the decisions, and shaping the career that the public sees. For Elvis, that man was Colonel Tom Parker. Parker was a master strategist, a man whose business acumen helped transform Elvis from a young singer from Mississippi into a global superstar. But his methods were often ruthless and his motivations have been widely debated. Did Parker truly have Elvis's best interests at heart, or was he simply a manipulative businessman who saw the king as a never-ending source of profit? Before he became the infamous Colonel Tom Parker, the man behind Elvis Presley was known as Andreas Cornelis van Kuik. Born in the Netherlands in 1909, his journey to America was as audacious as it was shrouded in mystery. Unlike most immigrants, Van Kuik did not enter the U.S. through legal channels. Instead, he seemingly vanished from his homeland and reappeared in America, where he assumed a new identity, Tom Parker. Rumors swirled about his past, including speculation that he fled the Netherlands due to a criminal offense, possibly even a murder. Whatever the truth, Parker never returned to his homeland and remained obsessively secretive about his origins. He worked in carnival promotions, learning the art of show business from the ground up. His keen understanding of audience psychology and his ability to create hype made him a force to be reckoned with in the entertainment industry. In 1948, Parker was granted the honorary title of Colonel by Louisiana Governor Jimmy Davis, a symbolic title with no military significance. However, Parker used it to craft an identity of Southern aristocracy and authority, giving himself an air of prestige in the business world. Parker's introduction to Elvis Presley was nothing short of serendipitous. By the early 1950s, Parker was managing country music stars like Eddie Arnold and Hank Snow. It was through an associate, Oscar Davis, that Parker first heard of a young rock and roll singer from Memphis who was electrifying audiences with his unique sound and gyrating dance moves. Intrigued, Parker attended one of Elvis's performances and immediately recognized his star potential. By August 1955, Parker had maneuvered his way into Elvis's management team, initially sharing responsibilities with Bob Neal. However, Parker quickly asserted dominance, eventually pushing Neal out and securing full control over Elvis's career. From that moment on, Parker dictated nearly every move Elvis made, setting the stage for an unprecedented rise to superstardom, but also planting the seeds for future controversy and conflict. From the moment Parker took full control of Elvis's career, his management style was marked by an iron grip that extended far beyond typical industry standards. He didn't just oversee Elvis's music, he controlled his film career, branding, public image, and even aspects of his personal life. One of Parker's most pivotal moves was negotiating Elvis's transition from Sun Records, a small but influential label, to RCA Records in 1955. This deal catapulted Elvis onto the national stage, leading to the release of hits like Heartbreak Hotel, Hound Dog, and Jailhouse Rock. However, Parker's true influence became apparent in the way he structured Elvis's career to maximize commercial success at all costs. A career built on profit, not art. While Elvis had undeniable musical talent, Parker viewed him as a product rather than an artist. This became especially evident in his film career. Instead of seeking roles that could have expanded Elvis's artistic credibility, Parker pushed him into formulaic, lightweight musical films that prioritized profit over prestige. Notably, Elvis was considered for roles in Midnight Cowboy and A Star Is Born, films that could have redefined his career. However, Parker turned down these opportunities, instead favoring movies that were easier to produce and guaranteed quick financial returns. This approach led to a string of films that, while commercially successful, did little to elevate Elvis as a serious actor. Over time, these choices contributed to his artistic frustration and eventual disillusionment with Hollywood. Financial exploitation. Perhaps the most controversial aspect of Parker's management was his financial arrangements. While standard music managers typically took around 10 to 20% of an artist's earnings, Parker struck a deal that gave him a staggering 50% cut of Elvis's income. This arrangement was unheard of in the industry and heavily favored Parker, leaving Elvis with a significantly smaller share of his own earnings. Even worse, Parker often structured deals that benefited him more than they did Elvis. In some cases, he negotiated lucrative merchandising and licensing deals that put money directly into his own pocket rather than Elvis's. As Elvis's career progressed, Parker's financial exploitation only intensified. His refusal to allow Elvis to tour internationally, a move that could have expanded his fame and fortune even further, was reportedly due to Parker's own undocumented status in the U.S. Fearing he wouldn't be allowed back into the country, Parker kept Elvis confined to domestic performances, limiting his global impact. Personal interference. Parker's control wasn't limited to business matters, he also inserted himself into Elvis's personal life. One of the most notable examples was his influence over Elvis's relationship with Priscilla Beaulieu. Initially, Parker was against the relationship, fearing it could lead to a scandal that would damage Elvis's wholesome image. However, as the relationship progressed, Parker saw marriage as a way to stabilize Elvis and keep him under control. Biographers suggest that Parker actively encouraged the wedding, believing it would prevent Elvis from indulging in reckless behavior that could jeopardize his career and, by extension, Parker's financial interests. Despite his efforts to control every aspect of Elvis's career and personal life, cracks began to show. Elvis, once eager and ambitious, began to feel trapped by the very system that had made him famous. This growing frustration would soon lead to a downward spiral that Parker either failed to prevent or, as some argue, actively contributed to. Elvis Presley's decline was not sudden. It was a slow, painful descent marked by poor health, substance abuse, and mounting personal struggles. While many factors contributed to his downfall, critics argue that Colonel Tom Parker played a significant role in exacerbating the situation. The military years, a pivotal shift. Elvis's 2-year military service, 1958 to 1960, was a turning point in his life. While stationed in Germany, he was introduced to amphetamines, a habit that would evolve into a full-fledged drug dependency in the years to come. Parker, meanwhile, ensured that Elvis's career remained active by releasing pre-recorded material to keep him in the public eye. Though his return to the U.S. reignited his career, something had changed. The vibrant, rebellious Elvis of the 1950s was slowly morphing into a more controlled, subdued version of himself, one that fit Parker's vision of a marketable star. A grueling schedule and drug dependency. As the years passed, Parker kept Elvis on an exhausting schedule, with relentless touring, film projects, and recording sessions. Instead of prioritizing his well-being, Parker continuously booked high-paying but grueling performances, particularly in Las Vegas. To cope with the demands, Elvis increasingly relied on prescription drugs, including sedatives and stimulants. Parker, fully aware of this escalating drug use, did little to intervene. Some argue that he even encouraged the behavior as it kept Elvis functional and compliant. By the mid-1970s, Elvis's health was visibly deteriorating. His weight fluctuated, his performances became erratic, and he often appeared disoriented. Despite this, Parker continued to push him, ensuring that he fulfilled his contracts regardless of his condition. Elvis's tragic end. On August 16, 1977, Elvis Presley was found unresponsive in his Graceland home. His death at the age of 42 shocked the world. While officially attributed to heart failure, years of drug abuse had undoubtedly taken their toll. Parker's reaction to Elvis's death was chillingly detached. His first words upon hearing the news were reportedly, "This won't change anything." To many, this confirmed what they had long suspected, that Parker saw Elvis not as a human being, but as a product to be profited from. In the aftermath of his death, Parker wasted no time capitalizing on Elvis's legacy, negotiating deals that ensured he would continue to profit from Elvis's name for years to come. However, his grip on Elvis's empire would soon be challenged as the truth about his financial mismanagement began to surface. Elvis Presley's death in 1977 did not mark the end of the Colonel Tom Parker saga. In fact, it exposed years of financial exploitation, mismanagement, and questionable business deals. For years, Parker had built an empire around Elvis, ensuring he reaped enormous profits while keeping Elvis financially dependent. But with the king of rock and roll gone, the scrutiny on Parker intensified. Immediate aftermath: Parker's cold response. In the hours after Elvis's death, while the world mourned, Parker's first concern was business. He reportedly told Elvis's father, Vernon Presley, "You can either make money from this or let others make money off of you." Instead of focusing on preserving Elvis's legacy with dignity, Parker immediately began negotiating deals to monetize his death. At the time of his passing, Elvis's estate was in surprisingly poor financial shape. Despite earning millions throughout his career, his bank accounts contained only about $5 million, a shockingly low amount for a global superstar. Much of this was due to Parker's aggressive profit sharing as well as Elvis's lavish spending habits. Legal battles and unraveling the truth. Elvis's father, Vernon Presley, had been named the executor of his estate. However, Vernon was elderly and in declining health. He relied heavily on Parker for guidance, until outside parties stepped in to investigate the Colonel's business dealings. A major lawsuit was launched against Parker in the early 1980s, led by the Elvis Presley estate. The legal team, headed by Elvis's ex-wife, Priscilla Presley, and financial advisors, conducted a thorough review of Parker's contracts. What they found was astonishing. Parker had taken 50% of Elvis's earnings, far above the industry standard of 10 to 20%. In some deals, Parker had arranged for himself to take as much as 85% of profits, particularly from merchandising and licensing agreements. The contract between Elvis and Parker was so one-sided that some experts labeled it unconscionable, a legal term for agreements so unfair they could be voided. Priscilla Presley took decisive action, renegotiating the financial structure of Elvis's estate. She and the legal team successfully cut Parker out, ensuring the Presley family regained control over Elvis's earnings. Parker's downfall. Following these revelations, Parker's reputation crumbled. In 1982, a judge ruled that Parker's management had been exploitative and that he had no legal claim to any further earnings from Elvis Presley's estate. He was effectively removed from all financial dealings related to Elvis, marking the end of his power. Parker, who had once controlled the biggest star in the world, now found himself in severe financial trouble. His gambling addiction had drained much of his wealth, and without access to Elvis's fortune, he was forced to sell assets and rely on dwindling royalties. After losing control of Elvis's estate, Colonel Tom Parker faded into obscurity. The man who had once orchestrated one of the most successful careers in music history now lived a life of increasing isolation and irrelevance. Declining health and financial struggles. Without Elvis's revenue stream, Parker struggled financially. Decades of extravagant spending and high-stakes gambling had left him with little savings. In an attempt to maintain his lifestyle, he continued to work as a consultant, but he never found another act that came close to Elvis. As the years passed, Parker's health deteriorated. He suffered a stroke in 1994, which left him physically weakened. He spent his final years in Las Vegas, often seen at casinos, still gambling despite his declining financial situation. Did Parker feel remorse? One of the biggest questions surrounding Parker's later years is whether he felt any guilt for how he treated Elvis. Some who interacted with him in his later years reported that Parker never expressed regret for his actions. He insisted that he had done what was best for Elvis, maintaining that without him, Elvis would never have become a global icon. However, others suggest that Parker privately acknowledged his mistakes. Close associates claimed that he occasionally reflected on how Elvis's career and life could have been different had he made better choices. Still, Parker never publicly apologized or admitted wrongdoing. His legacy remained one of controversy, with many viewing him as both a mastermind and a villain. The Colonel's death. On January 21, 1997, Colonel Tom Parker passed away at the age of 87 due to complications from a stroke. His death did not receive the fanfare or tributes that Elvis has had. In fact, his passing was met with mixed reactions. Some mourned the loss of a man who had shaped rock and roll history, while others saw it as the end of a manipulative figure who had exploited Elvis for personal gain. Unlike Elvis, whose grave at Graceland became a place of pilgrimage for millions, Parker's funeral was a quiet affair. He left behind a tarnished legacy, forever linked to the rise and fall of the world's greatest rock and roll star. Decades after his death, Colonel Tom Parker remains one of the most polarizing figures in music history. Was he a visionary manager who turned Elvis Presley into a global superstar? Or was he a greedy manipulator who prioritized money over Elvis's well-being? The truth lies somewhere in between. The case for Parker as a genius. There is no denying that Parker had an unparalleled understanding of the entertainment business. His strategies for marketing, branding, and controlling the media were groundbreaking for their time. Some of his major achievements include national and international superstardom. Parker turned Elvis into the first true global rock star, ensuring his music and image reached every corner of the world. The merchandising empire. Before Parker, music merchandising was a small industry. He transformed it into a multi-million-dollar business, selling everything from Elvis dolls to lunchboxes. The mystique factor. Parker carefully crafted Elvis's public image, maintaining a balance between accessibility and mystery, which helped sustain his fame for decades. Without Parker, Elvis might never have become the Elvis Presley. His instincts for show business were unmatched, and many of his strategies are still used in the entertainment industry today. The case for Parker as a villain. While Parker's business acumen was undeniable, his treatment of Elvis was deeply flawed. His greed and controlling nature had devastating consequences. Financial exploitation. Taking 50%, and in some cases more, of Elvis's earnings was an extreme and unethical business practice. Lack of artistic development. Parker prioritized quick cash over long-term artistic success, forcing Elvis into low-quality movies and rejecting roles that could have elevated his career. Restricting international tours. Parker's fear of traveling outside the U.S. due to his undocumented status denied Elvis the opportunity to truly conquer the global stage. Ignoring Elvis's declining health. Instead of intervening when Elvis's drug abuse became severe, Parker kept pushing him to perform, worsening his physical and mental state. In the end, Parker's legacy is as complex as his personality. He was both a brilliant strategist and a ruthless businessman, a man who made Elvis a legend while also contributing to his downfall. Final verdict. Would Elvis have been as successful without Parker? Maybe not, but would he have lived a longer, healthier, and happier life with a different manager? Almost certainly. Parker's name will always be linked to Elvis Presley, but not in the way he might have hoped. While Elvis remains a beloved cultural icon, Parker is remembered as the man who controlled, manipulated, and profited off him until the very end. The story of Colonel Tom Parker and Elvis Presley is one of ambition, power, and ultimately, tragedy. It is a cautionary tale of how the very forces that create legends can also destroy them. Parker's influence on Elvis was undeniable. He was the mastermind behind his meteoric rise, ensuring that Elvis became a household name, a cultural phenomenon, and the undisputed king of rock and roll. Without Parker's business acumen, Elvis might have remained a regional talent, never breaking beyond the borders of Tennessee. But at what cost? Parker's greed, secrecy, and ruthless control drained Elvis financially, emotionally, and physically. He pushed him onto stages when he should have been in rehab. He locked him into bad contracts while pocketing fortunes, and he kept him trapped in a cycle of exhaustion, addiction, and isolation, all to protect his own empire. Even after Elvis's death, Parker's grip on his legacy remained tight until the truth was exposed. By the time the courts stripped him of his influence, it was too late. The damage had been done. So, was Colonel Tom Parker a genius or a villain? The answer depends on how you define success. If success is fame, fortune, and global domination, then Parker was one of the greatest managers in history. If success is artistic freedom, well-being, and a life well-lived, then he was Elvis's greatest mistake. The Colonel's story serves as a reminder that in the world of show business, not all managers have their stars' best interests at heart. Talent may be the foundation of success, but the wrong people in power can turn even the brightest star into a tragic figure. Elvis Presley's music, charisma, and legacy live on, adored by generations. Colonel Tom Parker, he remains in the shadows, a man whose name is forever tied to the king, but never with the same love or admiration. The curtain has long fallen on both of their lives, but the debate over Parker's role in history will never truly end. What do you think? Was Colonel Parker a necessary evil or the reason we lost Elvis too soon?